broken. You can't trust anyone.
Maybe it's broken because you don't trust anyone. You just have to take the first step.
Hello, everyone. I should say hello to directors Don and Carlos, and also our writers Adele and Qui. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Great being here.
Before we press on, Don, I should probably say this isn't the first time I'm making your acquaintance.
I think so. I do believe we've chatted before, yeah?
The year was 2015, and it was an afternoon with Big Hero 6 for the pre-screener and Q&A in London. And I happened to be in the audience for that. And following the pre-screener, you were kind enough to sign a little university project Disney magazine that I'd made. And I've since cherished your autograph together with Roy Connolly's as well.
Oh, why?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So here we are several years later talking about your latest film, Raya and the Last Dragon. So it's just proof that dreams really do come true.
For sure, for sure.
The first question I have is really simple. What came first, the quest for Raya or the culture that inspired the film?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the world, I would say. I think the world came first, sort of this, and it's been, the project's been in development for a while, but there was always this desire to do a film inspired by the many different cultures of Southeast Asia. I mean, that goes back pretty far back, even before there was the current story was applied to that. So I think the setting probably came first.
Okay. Whether it's storytelling, animating, or even imagineering the next attraction in the park, Walt Disney had a philosophy known as plussing. So I want to know, since you're bound by that same philosophy, what moments throughout production, storytelling or animating, did you have Walt whisper in your ear, plus it to the point of satisfaction?
I would say that all throughout the journey, because that's really sort of like in the DNA of how everyone at Disney works. I'm relatively new to the process, and I think Don was channeling Walt often, just welcoming all perspectives and all opinions and all ideas. And that's really how it starts. It starts with, a filmmaker with a vision or a filmmaker with a question. And then writers come on board, your development team comes on board, storyboard artists come on board, visual development artists, and then your crew somewhere along the line is 500 people. So it's really all about plussing and plussing and plussing, and that's how the stories get developed. That's how the script gets worked. Then the actors come on board, and then they add their own essence into the movie. So I wouldn't say there's one or a handful of instances. I would say it's like just built into the foundation of how Disney animation makes movies.
Of course. And on that note of bringing in all of the actors, how did you go about casting the talent for some of the main characters we see in the film, namely Raya, Sisu, and Nimari? Because I know there was a change at some point as well for our warrior. So what was it in that moment that you realized it probably needed a different voice?
Well, the character of Raya kind of shifted a little bit from being a little bit more of a kind of a stoic lone warrior to, she's still a warrior, obviously, but the story shifted in such a way that it felt like there were opportunities for her to be sort of more verbal and have kind of a swagger, a verbal swagger and a physical swagger as well. And we thought that would play off of Nimari, who's a little bit more, severe and stern, and a lot of Raya's banter comes. It's usually directed toward Nimari. And we thought they would be pretty good foils for each other with that in mind.
I think she also struck the perfect balance of both vulnerability and ferocity as well. So it was perfect casting for our warrior in that aspect. But Carlos, can you tell me more about the Southeast Asian Story Trust and how it shaped the cultural authenticity of the film?
Yeah, I think sort of like the story of how it came to be stretches back all the way to Moana, when our producer was not sure put together this team of experts and people from the region to help the filmmakers throughout the journey, in the design of the world, in the building of the story, and then really like every step until the movie was out into the world. And I feel like the model was so successful, and the people both in the trust and in the studio were so satisfied by the collaboration, and it felt like it was really sort of like the best example of sort of like a project like bringing in a community into our process, and the community embracing our movie making process, and them sort of like feeding off of each other in a very healthy way. So when I know that was not when she was first starting to work on Raya, she knew that this had to be sort of like a key component of how the movie was put together. So when our team went on their first research trips, and this was like probably 4 or 5 years ago, to a handful of Southeast Asian countries, they started assembling this sort of like superhero team of anthropologists, musicians, sociologists, dancers, choreographers, and it essentially became sort of like the filmmakers' right hand when putting together the world of Raya. And they were there as they were first starting to build the story. Then Adele got to work with them like way before us. Then Don, Qui, and I joined the project, and this team had already been assembled, but we really got to interact with them like almost every day as designs were being submitted, as new script pages were being turned in. When the cuts eventually started coming together, they would review them and give us notes. So it really was like having this team of people from the region who really cared about the story, making sure that we were considering any and all aspects of their culture as we were doing this.
I think that really reflected as well. So well done. You must have had so much fun on that research trip. Adele, this question's for you. Your work on Crazy Rich Asians, fantastic rom-com, by the way. Did the screenwriting from that film influence how you approached this script in any way?
I think Raya was such a specific, wonderful, entirely fantastical world and original character and myth, so you'll never get away from that. But I think the one thing I did take away from the Crazy Rich experience was to always kind of tap back into the joy of it. And I think when the audience sees something that's authentic and genuine and comes from a place of love, they respond to it, even if we're not talking about it overtly. And I think that's what you see in Raya, that there were so many, whether it was Qui and I, or so many people from our story team, visual development, in addition to our wonderful cultural team, there were just people within Disney who were already there, and this was the first opportunity that they ever really got to tap into their own cultures of how they grew up, of how their parents expressed love, of how their children relate to their elders, of seeing all something as simple as fruits that we had growing up that a lot of our white friends didn't recognize, and being able to see that on screen, the mangosteens, the longans, the batik, these anytime it was a celebration of who we were, and having all those visuals and the stories be inspired by real experiences that we had, we knew it would, I felt like from the Crazy Rich experience, I knew like it was going to be something that resonated with audiences, even if they couldn't entirely sense it up front, that there would be something about the story that felt true.
Yeah. And finally, Qui, that leads me to ask, being of Southeast Asian origin yourself, were you able to incorporate any of your own personal references into the script? Were any moments from your own life or upbringing etched into some of the experiences that our characters have in the film?
Well, I mean, the most obvious one is the martial arts they employ. It's something I grew up doing, and it was such a joy to be able to have such specificity in the martial arts that we got to see up there. Specifically, we Thai, Pinjaks a lot. Arnis. These are the martial arts that I grew up, and still the martial arts I play around with my kids in the backyard. And so as soon as they were able to see Namari and especially Raya pull out their weapons, they knew right away what martial arts they were employing, which was always such a fun thing and such a kind of amazing thing to be able to share with my kids, this thing that we share together that they now get to see on screen.
Yeah, well, it was, in my opinion anyway, it was a visual spectacle. I think this is a masterclass in technical animation. So I have to give credit to the technical team at the studio. The points where Raya was journeying through the various lands, it felt like it imitated first-person player tropes of a video game. It was so immersive and tactile in that sense. It's almost as if you could just reach out and skim the surface of the water or touch the fur on the dragon. So it's incredible how the technology at the studio continues to astonish and advance with every new classic release that you come out with. So brilliant. It was beautiful. And the soundtracking, beautiful, by the way, very authentic. Don, my last question is for you. Having worked on Big Hero 6, one of my favorite films, by the way, how did your exploration of San Francisco contribute to your exploration of Southeast Asia?
Well, I think so many of the artistic leads that were on Big Hero were actually on Raya. So that just on a very simple level, just having that ease of collaboration, because we've all been through the battles together. That was very cool. Just, it was like coming home to this team that I worked with before. And then, I think just the takeaways were, the research, because did the same thing for Big Hero in San Francisco. We were in Tokyo for 21 days, I think, for quite a while. And then also we did several trips to San Francisco, in addition to consulting with, people from the different areas as well. So the seed of that idea was sort of planted on Big Hero and kind of came to fruition here on Raya, because it was on a whole nother level. And to your point about the studio, we found ourselves constantly just with our jaws dropping when we would look at these shots. And I know we're supposed to be...
I was in awe as well.
Yeah, we just, I know we're supposed to be directing things and finding, and guiding, but I'll be honest, most of the time we were just in awe because everybody's so good at their jobs, and just seeing it all, especially on the big screen, it kind of just blew us away. So
yeah, I'm going to watch it again on the big screen, actually. One quick fire question as we wrap the interview. Your favorite Disney films of all time? Adele, you want to take it first?
Weird one, Aristocats.
Okay, classic. Okay, and Qui?
Lion King, for sure.
For me, I have two. It's Dumbo and Peter Pan.
Okay, classics, nice. And finally, Carlos.
I will say all of the ones that Don Hall has directed.
Oh, and let's not forget his little featurette in Princess and the Frog. I recognize the voice in that one, Don.
Yeah.
You were a voice in Princess and the Frog?
I was one of the frog hunters. Yeah, I was the...
I didn't know this.
It was side casting. I was the big dumb guy. So
I was like, the Cajun frog hunter?
Yeah.
So, but you know what? Keep doing what you're doing. The way you instill hope again and again through your storytelling is honestly what keeps everyone going. And it's just a reminder to have faith, trust, and pixie dust in everything that we do. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you all. And I hope that we can interact at some point in the future, but thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
I just shape changed.
Dragons can do that?
Look how close my butt is to my head. It's gonna make digestion so much faster.